If you've ever had to choose between dignity and family, leave a comment, hit like, share this story, and follow the channel so you don't miss what comes next. I'm Allison, 30 years old, and I work in internal communications for a construction company in Boise, Idaho. I'm also a single mom to a 6-year-old girl named Lily. I thought I'd learned how to live with my family's disregard, especially from my brother Mason. But last summer, during the Jenkins family reunion at a ranch near Cascade Lake, I saw Mason slap Lily in front of everyone just because she was singing too loudly. My dad, Carl, folded his newspaper and smirked. "Kids need to learn shame early," my mom Donna laughed like it was a joke. I froze. But what pulled me out of that numbness was Lily's eyes, wide, scared, and red. Mason has always been the golden child. My parents pinned all their hopes on him since high school: baseball team captain, honor roll student, and now lead engineer at a big construction firm in Denver. Me? I wasn't into sports, didn't obsess over grades. I liked writing, watching people, taking notes. To them, I was the lazy one who overreacted. That summer, I debated for days about bringing Lily. "You sure about this?" my best friend Gwen had texted. "Your family's never been safe ground." I replied, "They're still her grandparents, and she loves lakes and cabins." We drove nearly 3 hours to get to the ranch. Mason had already arrived, parked his shiny new truck right at the wooden gate. As I put the car in park, Lily wriggled out of her seatbelt and yelled, "Where's the lake, Mom?" "We're here," she shouted, her hair flying in the breeze, her blue dress covered in crumbs from her snack. As I grabbed the suitcase from the trunk, the front door opened. My mom stood there in a crisp white shirt, smiling, but her eyes scanned my outfit. "You're late." Traffic out of Boise was slower than usual. Come in." No hug. Dinner was served under the porch overlooking the lake. Carl sat at the head, talking about rising lumber prices. Mason chimed in, loud and proud about his latest project. I was helping Lily with her salad when my mom glanced over and asked, "Lily still singing?" "Yes, she just learned a new song last week." "Keep it down. Nobody likes a noisy kid." Lily didn't seem to notice. She was doodling something on her napkin. The next morning was buffet-style breakfast. I was pouring coffee when I heard Lily's voice, clear and bright from the corner. "You can be brave, you can be kind." Her voice echoed through the wooden room. I turned. She stood near the fireplace, holding a wooden spoon like a pretend mic. A few chuckles floated through the room, but not from Mason. "Turn that speaker off," he said, not loud, but ice cold. Lily hesitated. I was about to move when he strode toward her. "She needs to learn manners." The sound snapped the air. No one spoke. Lily stumbled, dropping the spoon, eyes flooding. I stood, my hand pressing the table. "What the hell was that, Mason?" "She was being rude, and you're as soft as ever." "She was just singing." My hands trembled, but I didn't look away. My dad shrugged. "Parents these days don't teach discipline." Everything felt like it cracked inside my chest. But I held it together, picked Lily up, and walked out. I didn't know that was just the beginning. I shut the guest room door behind us. A small space behind the old barn, called a guest retreat, though it was more like a storage room with a sagging mattress and a window that didn't lock. Lily curled up on the bed, hugging her purple stuffed bunny. The red mark on her cheek had faded, but the imprint lingered. I sat beside her and pressed a cool cloth gently to her skin. "You okay?" She nodded. Her eyes stayed dry, like all her tears had already left her. "As if I don't sing any more, Uncle Mason won't be mad, right?" That question stopped my hand mid-air. I had said the same thing to my mom after my dad scolded me for reading at dinner. I remember the silver spoon hanging mid-air, his blunt voice, "Eat, don't act smart." When I was a kid, I had a hardcover blue notebook with slightly rough pages. I used to hide in my room, writing poems and drawing imaginary maps. places where people listened, where I didn't have to pick the polite version of truth. One day, my mom found the notebook. She didn't yell, she just read a passage aloud in the living room, chuckled, and asked, "Where do you learn this stuff? Practical people don't float around like that." Then the notebook disappeared. After that morning, I avoided Mason. Avoided Donna too, who asked me after lunch, did she stop crying yet? I just stared at her. My dad kept talking land taxes with Uncle Neil like nothing had happened. Paul, my cousin Sarah's husband, was the only one who didn't pretend. He quietly set a water glass next to me and whispered. I got it on audio. Mike was still rolling. I looked at him. Sorry, what? Your dad wanted candid clips for the family video. The mic picked it all up. The slap, his laugh, Mason's line about shame. That night, after Lily fell asleep, I stepped onto the back porch. A few old chairs sat near the woodpile. Paul was there, holding headphones. You sure? I asked. It's backed up, the whole thing. I leaned against a beam, arms folded. No wind, but the air felt broken, cold without a breeze. What are you going to do? Paul asked. I don't know. I looked up at the moonless sky. But I can't let it slide this time. The next morning, I got up early. Lily was still asleep, clutching her bunny. I kissed her forehead and stepped outside. The ranch was quiet, just the sound of dripping coffee and a sliding glass door. My mom was at the table, reading her iPad. Out early? She asked, not looking up. Just taking a walk. How's the girl? She got slapped, Mom. She's 6. She sang a song. She paused a second, then sipped her coffee. Kids need to learn boundaries early, builds character. I looked at her for a long time, then walked out of the kitchen without another word. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I finally saw it. Her silence had always been part of the harm, and I wasn't going to be quiet anymore. I just didn't know yet where to begin. I packed our bags in silence. Lily sat on the edge of the bed, clutching her purple bunny, eyes fixed on her green backpack, the one she proudly called her adventure bag. I folded clothes quickly and neatly, then opened the drawer to grab the sunscreen and nasal spray we were supposed to use all vacation long. Where are we going, Mom? Back to Boise. No swimming. I looked into her eyes. Not here. We walked downstairs, through the kitchen where the smell of bacon still lingered. My dad was pouring coffee. Leaving in the middle of vacation? He asked, not turning around. Yeah. Mason says you're overreacting. Hid my daughter, Carl. He said nothing, like the words didn't even deserve a response. My mom stood near the grill, folding napkins. Lily's fine now, she chimed in, like it was something we'd all moved past by dinner. I pulled Lily out of the house without saying goodbye. Gwen opened the door after the second knock. She was wearing a long-sleeve sweater, hair pulled back, still holding a spoon dripping with oatmeal. What happened? I didn't answer. I just nudged Lily toward her. What's wrong, sweetheart? Gwen crouched down, saw Lily's cheek, and her eyes darkened. Who did this? Mason. I told her everything while she made hot cocoa for Lily. She didn't interrupt. When I mentioned Paul had a recording, she frowned. Having proof is good, but what are you planning to do with it? I looked over at Lily, who was sitting on the rug coloring flowers with markers. Her little hand still trembled slightly. I don't want a lawsuit, but I can't let this disappear into silence again. Gwen nodded. Then we need a plan. That night, after Lily fell asleep, I sat at Gwen's kitchen table with my laptop open. I looked up child protection laws in Idaho, then moved on to support organizations for single parents. My screen filled with tabs, regulations, policies, phone numbers. But I kept reading. Paul texted, I can send the audio tonight. Do you have a USB drive? I replied, yeah, send it. I'll back it up to the cloud, too. Around 11 p.m., I plugged in my headphones and played the recording. Mason's voice came through, clear. No one taught her how to be quiet? Then, the slap. Next, Lily's crying, then my father's smooth voice. Kids need to learn shame early. I pulled off the headphones and set them on the table, trying not to let my hands shake. It wasn't the slap, I saw that with my own eyes. It was the fact that everyone kept chatting afterward like nothing had happened. I knew what I needed to do next, but I couldn't do it alone. I needed someone outside my family to stand with me. And maybe Paul would be the first. We met Tuesday afternoon at a small cafe in downtown Boise, just 2 blocks from the law office Gwen had recommended. Paul was 5 minutes late. He wore a faded blue button-down and carried a canvas tote with a zipper. Sorry, traffic was crazy. It's okay. I pulled out a chair for him. He reached into the bag and pulled out a silver USB drive, placing it on the table and sliding it toward me. I've deleted it from the main computer at home. The original's on a backup drive with encryption. I nodded. Thank you. I won't let this come back to you. Paul exhaled, glanced around before continuing. Linda doesn't know I'm meeting you, but I can't stay quiet. I have a daughter, and I keep thinking about her. I clenched my hand under the table and leaned back to keep my voice steady. You're the first in our family who didn't pretend it never happened. That night, I sat at my screen, replaying the recording for the second time. This time, I didn't take the headphones off. I wanted to hear it all. After the slap came silence. Then the clatter of dishes. My mom said something about almond cake. Mason uncorked wine. No one said Lily's name. I trimmed the audio, keeping the 2 clearest minutes. Mason's voice, Lily's crying, my father's line, and a snide comment from my mother. I saved the file under the name Jenkins_proof MP3. Not to share yet. To be ready. The next morning, I called the law office Gwen had suggested, Keller & Howe, a firm specializing in child protection cases. A young assistant with a steady voice booked me for Thursday. I worked remotely that day, filed reports, answered emails, joined Zoom meetings, but every motion felt automatic. After Lily went to bed, I opened a new tab and searched where Mason worked. Everline Construction Group in Denver. I scrolled through the website, his LinkedIn, then stopped at the company's mission statement. Core values: respect, responsibility, and safety, role models for the next generation. I stared at the words safety. Mason was managing dozens of housing projects for communities with children. He even boasted about volunteering for homes for orphans. I laughed, but it wasn't a joyful laugh. The next night, Gwen brewed ginger tea and handed me an envelope. This is a confidentiality agreement. If you share the audio, state why, how, and keep the master file secure. I nodded. Got it. Gwen sat across from me, tilting her head. What are you thinking about? I spun my tea mug. If Mason can hit my daughter in front of everyone and no one reacts, what happens behind closed doors could be worse. Gwen didn't speak, but her eyes confirmed what I feared most. I had to make sure this didn't happen to any other child. The question was, how do I start without getting shut down at the first step? I walked into Keller & Howe on a drizzly Thursday morning. Boise was deep in fall, damp leaves clinging to my heels. The lead attorney, Sandra Howe, greeted me. She was in her 50s, petite, short-haired, deliberate, and sharp. After hearing my story, she said just one thing before opening a blank case folder. The recording is strong, but we'll need more. That afternoon, I took Lily to her pediatrician, Dr. Megan Lutz, who had been seeing her since infancy. After I explained what happened at the ranch, she listened quietly, then checked Lily's face, asked a few gentle questions, and nodded. The bruise is fading, but I'll know it fully. And emotionally, I asked. She's a little withdrawn, cautious around strangers. I'll refer you to a child therapist. I thanked her, forcing a smile. Lily gripped my hand tightly as we left. That night, after Lily was asleep, I checked my phone. A message from an unknown number lit up. This is Natalie, Mason's wife. I'd like to meet privately if you're willing. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. Natalie, the polished, praised, successful wife of our family? The last time I saw her was 2 Christmases ago. Polite, distant, untouchable. I replied. Tomorrow. Cider and Pine Cafe, 10 o'clock. Natalie showed up right on time. Her eyes were sunken, hair hastily tied, both hands gripping a latte like it was holding her steady. I heard the recording, she said as soon as she sat down. Paul sent it to Linda. Linda gave it to me. I waited. Mason never hit me, but he threw things, screamed in my face. Once, he got so angry, he shoved a chair into the wall, just a few feet from me. I tightened my grip on the bag beside me. Are you okay? No, but I'm looking into temporary housing. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. What he did to Lily? It's how he treats me, too. Just without a recording. If you've ever stayed silent because no one believed you, or were blamed just for speaking up, leave a comment. Share this story if you think someone out there needs to hear it. Silence can be resistance, but the right words, spoken at the right time, can change a life. That night, I sent an email to Everline Construction's HR department, marked as an ethical concern. My name is Allison Jenkins. I'm the mother of a 6-year-old girl who was slapped in the face by Mason Jenkins, your project manager, at a family gathering in September. I've attached a short excerpt of the audio recording of the incident. As a mother, I cannot stay silent when a child is hurt by someone in a position of authority. Not making threats. I'm not asking for anything. I'm just sending the truth. 3 days later, I received a response. We are conducting an internal investigation and will place Mr. Jenkins on temporary leave pending review. I read it over and over. No relief, no victory, just a small breath. And I knew it wasn't over. Because not everyone wants the truth out in the open. I was steeping ginger tea when the phone rang. It was Gwen. I got word. Everline has officially suspended Mason. But I think you should brace yourself. Your family's reaction won't be quiet. I just said, I'm expecting it. And I was right. An hour later, my mom called. I didn't pick up. A message came in almost immediately. Allison, are you trying to ruin this family's reputation? You're blowing things out of proportion. Don't forget who helped pay your hospital bills during the divorce. I bit my lip and placed the phone face down. Lily was coloring at the kitchen table, humming a soft tune as she drew. I turned back to the kettle, focusing on the sound of boiling water. 3 days later, my father called. His voice wasn't angry or gentle, just dry and sharp like an order. We need to talk, in person. I don't think there's anything to say. Then just listen. Saturday, 3 o'clock. Grandma's house. I thought it over, then agreed, not for him, but because I needed to know what cards they were playing. Grandma Marion lived in the suburbs of Caldwell, in a 2-story house wrapped in ivy. She was the only one on my father's side who ever held my hand when I was wrongly blamed. And the only one who hadn't said a word since it all happened. When I arrived, the cars were already lined up in the driveway, my parents', Mason's, and Natalie's. Natalie stood on the porch, arms crossed, staring into space. I gave her a quiet nod as I walked in. The living room was thick with tension. My father stood with his hand resting on the back of a chair, like it was a witness stand. My mother sat by the window, lips pressed like she had a toothache. Grandma Marion sat upright in her armchair, gripping her cane. We're going to speak plainly, no dancing around, she said. She looked straight at Mason. Did you hit the child? Mason rolled his eyes. It was a reflex. She was being too loud. I didn't ask for a reason. I asked if you hit her. Yeah. The room froze. My mother broke the silence. Allison, you're making this a bigger deal than it needs to be. Every family has its scuffles. I didn't respond. I looked at Grandma. Ask the next one. She nodded. Is Lily okay? Not exactly, I said. She flinches at loud male voices, and she only sings in whispers now. Mason sank into a chair, rubbing his hair. I didn't think it would affect her like that. I didn't mean to. Want to know something? Grandma's voice came slow and cold. Your father once said the exact same words to your mother. My dad shot up. Mom, don't drag up ancient history. Sit down, Howard. I didn't even look at him. My eyes stayed on Grandma. For the first time, I saw them well up. As the meeting ended, she pulled me aside by the door. Her hands trembled, but her grip was solid. You did the right thing, but you'll need patience. Changing something buried for generations takes more shouting than you'd expect. I squeezed her hand. I'm not afraid of shouting. But I hadn't expected what came next. It wasn't just shouting. It was an undercurrent I'd have to swim through. 3 days after that meeting at Grandma Marion's house, I received an email from HR. The subject line was simple. Internal notice. Mason Jenkins. I opened it. We confirm that Mr. Mason Jenkins has been officially terminated from Everline Construction for violating our Code of Ethics and Professional Conduct. No fanfare, no headlines. Just a cold paragraph like any other corporate memo. But I knew this wasn't the end, only the beginning of something bigger. Gwen came over that night. She brought carrot soup and a bottle of cold-pressed apple juice. I figured you weren't in the mood to cook. Not even a little, I admitted, popping the juice open with my elbow. After dinner, we sat on the porch. The October wind had begun to sting. You know, Gwen said, a lot of people in your family didn't choose to support you, not because they don't know right from wrong, but because they're afraid of losing their place in the group. I nodded. I used to be the quiet kid in that group. I know exactly how it feels to be on the outside. The next morning, I got a call from Natalie. Her voice was quiet but steady. I've moved out, staying at my cousin's place for now. Are you okay? I'm not sure, but I feel safer. I'll be filing for legal separation this week. We sat in silence for a few seconds. Then she added, the hardest part is realizing I stayed silent for so long, I thought it was normal. I understood too well. That night, I posted a short note in a local parent group. My daughter was slapped by a family member during a gathering. When I spoke up, some people said I was causing drama. But kids don't need to be hit to learn respect. If you've ever been made to feel small for speaking out, you're not alone. Within 24 hours, the post had over 400 reactions, more than 80 comments, most from people who'd lived through the same. The mother wrote, "Thank you. I once watched my child being humiliated in front of relatives, and no one spoke up. Now I know. I wasn't wrong for walking away." I started getting private emails from parents in the neighborhood. One wrote, I once saw Mason yelling at a kid at the public playground last year. When I stepped in, his wife pulled him away. I didn't know whose child it was. I forwarded it to our attorney, Sandra. The more witnesses, the better. One evening while I was washing dishes, I heard Lily humming behind me. No words, just a melody. Her voice was so soft, like she was afraid to bother someone. I set the towel down and turned to her. You can sing, sweetheart, it's okay. No one's gonna get mad, right, Mommy? I knelt and touched her hand. In this house, singing is never something to be punished for. She looked at me, then sang a little louder. And for the first time in weeks, I let myself smile without guilt. I didn't know who would speak up next. But I was starting to believe I wasn't alone anymore. That Sunday, I got an unexpected call from Aunt Catherine, my mom's younger sister, a quiet woman, rarely seen at big family gatherings. Allison, I'm sorry if I'm intruding, but I need to say this. I was standing in the kitchen, holding a yogurt lid. Her voice made me stop what I was doing. I was there when Mason slapped Lily, she said, hesitating. I was at the end of the table. I saw, I heard, but I didn't say anything. I leaned against the fridge. My palms went clammy. I was scared, Catherine continued. I'm used to staying quiet in this family, but it's not right. It can't go on. I took a deep breath. Thank you for telling me. I'm willing to be a witness if needed. I don't want Lily growing up thinking no one stood up for her. That afternoon, I took Lily to the park. It was chilly, but the sun still lit up the red leaves scattered along the path. She brought her sketchbook and a box of crayons, sitting beside me on the bench to draw. I pulled out my phone and reopened a message from Paul from the week before. Allison, a few family members have seen Mason be rough with kids before, but no one's spoken up. They're considering it. I replied. If they want to meet privately, I'm open. Not long after, Natalie called. One of my nieces was once yanked by Mason for spilling orange juice on the sofa. Her mom, Emma, wants to talk. 3 days later, I met Emma at a bakery downtown in Boise. She was around my age, wore a hoodie, no makeup, and brought 2 cups of hot tea. My daughter's name is Chloe. Last year, during a birthday party, Mason pinched her arm when she dropped cake on his shirt. I saw the bruise, but my husband told me not to make a fuss. And you? I stayed quiet. I didn't want to be called dramatic. Emma pressed her lips together. But when I heard what happened to Lily, I couldn't pretend anymore. I looked at her, heart heavy but also a little lighter. Maybe, I said, change begins the moment one of us stops pretending. That night, I wrote down every statement. Saved every recording as supporting evidence. Gwen called to schedule our next meeting with Sandra. Paul updated me. Linda's stepping down from the school board. The backlash after Mason's incident is heavy. I listened while folding Lily's blanket in her room. She was asleep, cheeks pink from the heater. Looking at her, I knew. This wasn't just about justice for Lily. It was about shedding light on all the times someone was silenced, even for a second. And I didn't know how my family would react when more came to light. But I was ready. What I didn't know was who in the family would strike back first. On Friday morning, I got an email from HR at my company, Pinewell Communications. Subject: Employee Record Inquiry, Urgent Response Needed. The message said someone named Derek Jenkins had called, claiming to be a former relative of mine, asking about my employment dates, job title, and current salary. I reread it. A cold chill ran down my back. Derek was Mason's old high school buddy. I called Gwen right away. What do you think they're trying to do? Leverage connections to damage your credibility. Maybe spread rumors you're unstable, lying, or using the family for attention. I stayed silent for a moment. We planned for this, Gwen said. But there's one more step. You need to tell your company clearly and get ahead of it. I arranged to meet with Lisa, the head of HR. She's in her 40s, no nonsense, and never once treated me differently for being a single mom or leaving early to pick up my kid. As I explained the situation, she listened without interruption. I have the original audio and a report from the child psychologist, I said. I just want the company to know, in case anyone tries to smear me, why they're doing it. Lisa exhaled slowly. Thanks for bringing this up early. I'll loop in our legal team and prepare a formal response for any future calls. I nodded, feeling a bit lighter. When family matters spill beyond the private circle, she added, the first thing to protect is your own dignity. And I think you're doing just that. That evening, I took Lily to a community music class at the downtown center. It was small, maybe 10 kids. Under the warm glow of yellow lights, an LD by Miss Marla, a woman in her 50s with curly hair and a signature red scarf. Lily stood in the right-hand corner, holding her hand-drawn music sheet. I saw her lips moving with the melody. Not loud, but steady. During break, Marla approached me. She's right on beat, but I see a bit of caution in her eyes. I nodded. We're working on it, every day. Marla placed a hand on my shoulder. She'll get there. Because her mother doesn't back down. When we got home, I received a message from Paul. Mason just posted in a social group hinting that his sister ruined his job out of jealousy. It looks like not many people believe it. Someone already posted the recording again. I didn't feel angry, just tired. But I knew truth has a way of traveling on its own. My job was to stand steady through the noise. For my daughter, and for the other kids who never had someone to protect them. I made tea and looked out the window. The October wind was sweeping the leaves low across the yard. I didn't know when Mason would stop, but I was beginning to see maybe my grandparents had been wrong all these years. Silence isn't dignity. It only prolongs the pain for another few generations. On Sunday afternoon, Lily stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her purple dress with silver star prints. "Mom, is this dress too puffy?" "No," I smiled. "It's just perfect for dancing without getting tangled." She gave a little twirl, her hair swaying with the motion, her eyes lighting up. The community performance was held in a small hall at the downtown Boise Center. Not big, not crowded, but warm. The smell of chocolate chip cookies drifted through the waiting room doors. I sat in the third row, phone in hand, my palms slightly damp, not because I was nervous about the performance, but because I still remembered how, just weeks ago, she used to whisper every word of a song like she was afraid someone might be disturbed. When it was Lily's group's turn, Marla signaled the kids to take their spots. Lily stood in the middle of the second row. The music started, a gentle tune about kindness and courage. Lily opened her mouth and sang, loud, clear, without hesitation. I saw my daughter lift her head high. She didn't glance around, didn't hold herself back, and I didn't try to hold back my tears. After the performance, Natalie approached me in the back garden of the hall. She came with her sister, still tired but no longer walking like she was trying to disappear. "Mason is officially under mandatory anger management treatment," she said. "He had no other choice, if he wants to keep visitation rights." "Are you okay?" I asked. She nodded. "Not fully. But at least I'm choosing my own path now." That evening, I laid out a thick blanket on the living room floor and poured 2 mugs of hot cocoa. One for me, one for Lily. She sat cross-legged, leaning her back against me. "Mom," she asked quietly, "if someone scares me in the future, what should I do?" I placed my hand on her shoulder. "If someone makes you feel afraid, no matter who it is, you can say no, clearly. Then come tell me. You don't have to please anyone to be loved." Lily nodded, then bit into a marshmallow melting over the rim of her mug. "I don't know how long this path ahead will be, but I do know this. My daughter is walking it with something I never had as a child, the feeling of being trusted and protected." I don't know where you're listening from, maybe in your car right before bed or on a day when you need a story to remind you to rise. Tell me where you're tuning in from. And if you want to hear more real journeys like this, don't forget to follow the channel because the next story might be exactly what you've been needing. Thank you for walking with me and Lily this far. We're still moving forward, and you can too. Allison's story isn't just about a slap. It's about standing up against silence, protecting her daughter, and breaking a cycle of generational harm. In real life, so many carry wounds from family without ever having a voice. Speaking up, even when it feels lonely, might be the first step toward healing, not just for ourselves, but for those who come after us. Because sometimes, change starts with one person brave enough to say, "This isn't okay, and I won't stay quiet anymore."